So Richard, here we are, December 2012. Workplace pension reform is probably the biggest change for a generation, and it's finally here. So can you just run through for me, please? What do employers have to do and by when?
So it's been in since 1st October, and the largest employers are already dealing with this and complying with their duties. Employers from now need to identify their staging dates, which are linked to the largest PAYE scheme, and they can find those on the pension regulator's website. When they've identified their staging date, they then need to make sure they have automatically enrolled eligible job holders into an automatic enrolment scheme, or their non-eligible job holders have offered membership of an automatic enrolment scheme, and finally their entitled workers are offered membership of a pension scheme, but they do not have to have employer contributions. So those are the key reforms.
That's great, thanks. Lots of jargon there. We've talked about that before, comes from the legislation, and we've explained previously what those new terms of art mean.
Yeah.
So Richard, what does that exactly mean, that an employer has to assess its workforce?
So 3 key stages at the start of the process. UK workers identify the contractual provisions, very wide definition including the self-employed and consultants. Second, identify pay reference period, weekly, 4-weekly or monthly, and that will identify the triggers for the earnings. Finally, the age, because eligible job holders are triggered at the age of 22, so the key reforms apply at that point. It's a 3-step process.
So Richard, can you tell me what's the role of the existing pension scheme under these new reforms?
Yeah, so employers do have the choice of using their existing scheme. They will need to look at that scheme and analyse the rules to make sure that it's either a qualifying scheme for those who are in the scheme at staging date or an automatic enrolment scheme. So the key provisions will be the eligibility rule to make sure that there are no barriers to entry, and for example on the DC side, a default investment fund for employees to be automatically enrolled into.
So not controversial amendments generally?
No, if you were on the trustee side, you will be receiving a proposal from the employer if the trustees are involved in amending scheme rules, and the employer will simply be saying, here are the changes we need to make to comply with our duties. Overall, over time of course, there will be more members in the schemes as these reforms progress.
So lots more members potentially, and perhaps a bit more complicated administration in looking after them.
Absolutely, and of course on the investment side, just to make sure that the reviews are being carried out regularly to change the possible profile for investment of that changing scheme membership.
Yeah. So something that's been in the news quite a bit recently is contractual enrolment. Can you just tell me what that is and why employers seem to be using this route?
Well, I think the key point from an employer's point of view is that you can use it to deal with your initial duties at staging date. So it deals with the key pieces of the reforms. You do not need to automatically enrol your workforce. So that's fine, and that happens through the job offer and the contractual piece at the start of employment. What it doesn't do is deal with all of your ongoing duties. Yes, so that's the problem. To the extent that somebody's an eligible job holder, that's fine. If they've never been an eligible job holder and they leave the scheme, you have to continue to monitor them. If they become eligible, then you have to automatically enrol them.
So you bring everybody in, but as soon as someone opts out,
Yes.
you're back into the statutory
Regime.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure.